We are live. Good afternoon, good afternoon. Kate Caruth here, your content alchemist with some content gold on a Wednesday lunchtime. Who's your favourite fiction writer? What's your favourite book? What's the one that you read over and over and you just love every moment of it? That's what we're talking about today. Not your favourite fiction writer, but fiction, generally, making stuff up. On the plus side of writing fiction, you're never ever stuck for an idea if you want to be a fiction writer, because if you get stuck, you just make something up to fill in the gaps. On the downside, you don't have all the answers. You can't Google to find out how to get a solution to a problem when you're plotting. Either way, it helps to have a plan. So today I'm going to talk you through the 4 things you need to consider when you are planning your great fiction book. Number 1, you need to think about setting. This is the where and when. Think about where you want to locate your story. In what era? Is it on this planet or another planet? Is it a real place or a made-up place? Think about your setting. Number 2, think about your characters. Who and why? So, who are you going to use to move your plot along? I don't think I've ever come across a book, I've never read a book, certainly, with no characters at all. There are probably 1 or 2 fiction books out there that don't use characters. They're pretty hard going, I would guess. But basically think about who are those characters that you're going to use and really get to know them. What do they look like? What's their personality? What do they like and dislike? What pushes their buttons? What's likely to wind them up? Are they a moody sort of a bloke? Are they a happy clappy woman? Do they like yoga? Do they like to run? Do they just sit on the couch and eat potato crisps? The more you get to know them, the easier it is to create a plot around them that really makes sense and that they act consistently. Can't talk today. And when you're working out those characters, don't just figure them out in your head, write it down. It's really, really important that you keep track of everything about your characters so that as you move through a book, you're consistent about them and that you don't suddenly find that your blonde-headed hero is now red-headed. That has happened to me. So that's number 2. Number 3. Number 3 is your plot itself. The what's going to happen. Now, there's lots of different ways to approach plot. In fact, some people don't even work it out. They just kind of write and see where the plot takes them. Me, I like a plan. I tend to start at a very, very high level. There's my hands. I start at a very, very high level and then I break it down and get more and more detail. So when I'm writing a fiction book, I might start with sort of 8 or 9 key points along the journey from the beginning to the end. There's lots and lots of different structures for high-level plot. If you just Google for plot, you'll find lots and lots of different ones. You could, alternatively, start at the very detailed level. Lots and lots of ideas of what things you'd like to happen, jot them all down, and then figure them out into a sequence and an order. So that's kind of a bottom-up approach. But there's loads and loads of different ways that you can approach that. But knowing what's going to happen to your characters in your setting is the 3rd element. The 4th element when you're building your plan for your fiction work is style. This is the how. How do you want to write it? How do you want to structure everything that you're doing? And this comes down to what's right for you personally, how you want to write the book and how you want the book to come across. For example, do you want to write in first person from the perspective of one person? So I did this, I did that, I did the other. That's first person. Or you write it in most typically 3rd person. So what did he do and she do? That allows you to move from character to character and get different perspectives and to reveal what's going on from a range of different perspectives. I have actually read a book by Daphne du Maurier, which which was written in the fourth person. We did this, we did that. It's called The Misfits. It's a really good book. It's really interesting. It's quite odd that it shifts from character to character in that collective way, but it does work. And obviously that was her decision to try something different with style. So those are the kinds of things that you can think about in terms of whose perspective you write from, the point of view. You can also think about how much you want it to be dialogue led. Classic example from my era anyway, Diary of Adrian Mole was written entirely as a diary. So it was his recounting of what was going on the day. So you had dates, so you had a clear timeline to it. So you could write it as a diary, you can write it with lots and lots of dialogue, you can write it entirely descriptively with very, very little dialogue. Do you want it to be funny? Is it a detective story? Is it gritty? Is it hard hitting? All of those are style questions that you can ask yourself as you're deciding on the book that you want to write. So those are the 4 elements: setting, character, plot and style. And once you've got those in place, you can then start to really work out the plan for your book, and you're well on the way to being a writer. So that's it for this week. Next time we're going to be talking about non-fiction, which is the other type of writing that we're covering in this series. In the meantime, if you know of anyone who dreams of being a writer, who'd love to write their own book, and you think that this series could be helpful to them, then tag them in the comments below or share this post with them. That's it for this week. Have a golden afternoon.